In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Thank you, my beloved Father, for coming to this channel, Graceful Mind, and thank you for accepting to participate in the Coptic Orthodox Clergy Burnout Survey. Firstly, I would like to share with you that this is the last step in my PhD in Christian counseling study. I have done a master's degree in mental health, Christian mental health, in Providence Theological Seminary, and then I joined the Trinity Bible Seminary in the United States, and I'm actually doing with them a PhD study in the Christian mental health. When I started my study, my focus was mainly on how to rehabilitate and help the congregation, uh, balancing between emotions, cognitive, spirituality, a concept I call a holistic approach. I've done some interviews with so many people. Then I realized that the most important wise starting point will be to look at the clergy and look at the shepherds. The Bible said that strike the shepherd and the flock will be scattered. Uh, how can we use the same idea by helping the shepherd so that we can help the whole flock? If striking the shepherd will scatter the congregation, maybe healing the shepherd will bring them back to Christ. Basically, one of the ways that a shepherd could be stricken is clergy burnout. And I have actually talked to so many bishops, and I also have shared the idea of using a holistic approach with His Holiness Pope Tawadros in my PhD study, and all of them encouraged me a lot to continue my study. In fact, uh, after talking to so many wonderful bishops and priests, I learned that the study here is the first of its kind. I also checked with the university in academic sense and database and all of that, and I realized that so many researches have been done for many denominations except for the Coptic Orthodox clergy. That's why this research is the first of its kind. And based on the request from so many fathers, I'm going to use this opportunity to just to present the idea in a very short format, maybe 10-15 minutes. And then I will explain the whole idea of the survey, how you can fill it, what is it all about. But let's first just try to make sense of what is clergy burnout and how severe it is, and why this is really important to study. As I mentioned, it's part of my PhD survey for my dissertation. And as Copts, we know that priests believe that they are candles that should be consumed to enlighten the way. But a big question I'm raising is, does it have to be smothered halfway? As a candle, you are consumed to enlighten the way. And that's what true sacrificial love is. Jesus, because of his true sacrificial love, he sacrificed himself on the cross to actually free us from the bondage of the enemy. And as we learn from the Father that a priest is a martyr every day who actually sacrificed his own life for the congregation. But the question now is, can that candle be consumed all the way, or does it have to be smothered halfway? Obviously, the answer is not. But when we look at statistical data, we will actually see a different scary reality, not only in the Coptic Orthodox Church, but on every denomination. We're going to learn that pastors, ministers are all actually suffering from ministerial stress, which is called clergy burnout. And in fact, when I consider the aspects of clergy burnout in Coptic Orthodox, I realize that Coptic Orthodox, they suffer more. We have so many obligations. We have very strict rules, whether it's about the long life service, no retirement, whether it's about leaving your job completely and working only for the ministry, whether it's about the uniform, the relocation, the structure, the boundary, the expectation, and all of that, they are more vulnerable to burnout than any other denomination. Basically, priesthood is a candle that burns to enlighten the way, but the flame shouldn't smother halfway. Um, I built my research on a verse that I shared with His Holiness Pope Tawadros from 2 Timothy 3:17, and the verse focuses on that the man of God may be complete, thoroughly equipped for every good work. And when we look at the man of God here, we're going to learn that the term man of God is associated with people in leadership position, and Timothy is a pastoral epistle. So basically, this is all about clergy. Uh, Obviously, I need to mention that I'm so thankful and appreciating the continuous support by His Grace Bishop Mina for his continuous encouragement for us to study and to research and also to put every effort towards making the service better and helping the congregation in a highly educated level. Basically, I have done many papers in clergy burnout going all the way to January 2018, which is I was trying to find an assessment for clergy burnout, and then going to another paper in April 2018, which was about crisis as a burnout or burnout as a crisis and trauma for Coptic Orthodox clergy, and how can we find an intervention plan. Then going to December 2018, and that was theological integration. And I was trying to find out why uh, do some Coptic clergy develop burnout and others don't. And then through the PhD study, I actually did a lot of priest's reflection on self care for Christian counsel, self care for clergy burnout, or clergy. I have done 4 research papers and videos that was part of PhD research study. It was presented to uh, peers for peer review. One of them was about the development and the origin of Coptic Orthodox clergy burnout. The other one was about manifestation, development, and intervention, preventive measure, and so forth. And finally, I presented the clergy burnout assessment as well as the precis, which is um, the dissertation proposal document, and all of them are focused on clergy burnout. What is burnout? Burnout is basically a work related stress that people actually put a lot of effort towards working or being consumed by work. When it comes to the term itself, it's an old term that was actually started by 1978. And there is a phenomenon in Japan called karuchi, which is people work more hours than they should, and they will end up dying suddenly. And it is a phenomenon that work can kill people. Uh, the descriptive definition of burnout is basically a persistent negative work related state of mind found in normal individuals that are characterized by what are the characteristics of burnout? Number one is exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. Number two, distress, and a sense of reduced effectiveness and decreased motivation. You become dysfunctional, and basically your behavior become somehow full of aggression or withdrawal. Basically, it's the state when you are working on no battery or your battery is fully discharged, or you are trying to drive a car that is running out of gas. 3 main components for burnout phenomena: emotional exhaustion, reduced personal accomplishment, and depersonalization. When we look at the Timothy, 2 Timothy 3:17, it talks about the term man of God to be thoroughly equipped for every good deed, the man of God to be perfect. It's very relevant to the clergy, very relevant to anybody in pastoral ministry, and that's a huge part of my PhD document. I'm not gonna waste your time here about that, but the point is the man of God, when it is mentioned in the Bible, it was mentioned so many times, but every time it is mentioned, it's about people in leadership position. You're gonna look at Moses, Samuel, David, Elijah, Shemaiah, Elisha, Timothy, and an angel once was called the man of God, and there was a prophet who has no name in First Samuel and Second Chronicle, First King, and who also was referred to the man of God. It is fascinating to also see that most of these people, Moses, Samuel, and Elijah, have experienced burnout. When we look at the clergy, burnout for the Coptic Orthodox clergy can have a huge moral component associated with it. I remember when I shared how the ordination process goes on in our Coptic church with the people in the Trinity Theological and Bible College, they were fascinated with how difficult it is for somebody to go through all these steps and to eventually, during the obligation or the pledge of commitment, somebody will be committed in front of God, in front of the clergy, the hierarchy, to do a lot of things. This is by itself can become a severe burden on a clergy, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. Uh, when we look at the term the man of God to be perfect, perfect here is called artios, and it is associated with the concept of wholeness, to be complete, to lack nothing. And that's what perfect is, lacking nothing, complete, uh, missing nothing. It's like a ship sailing in the ocean. So the ship cannot afford to forget anything or cannot afford to desire anything in the middle of the ocean because it will not be there. Burnout is your life like a ship that is missing a lot and a lot of essential component, essential item. Having the proper tool, you can serve God without burnout, or you can know how to prevent burnout, or you can learn how you can reduce the impact of burnout. There is actually a lot and a lot to be said about the scripture and burnout, but for the sake of time, I need you to learn that God rested in the seventh day after 6 days of work. God asked people and commanded them to take a rest. God commanded the land to rest. Jesus used to go to the mountain to have alone time for resting and so forth. It is so important for every clergy to know that part of ministry is to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. It's like when you are in a plane and there is a problem with oxygen, so basically they ask you to put the oxygen mask first. Burnout is you are trying to help somebody to put an oxygen mask while you are running out of oxygen and you don't have an oxygen mask. For clergy, burnout can manifest itself in so many different ways. But we are trying to research here uh, how burnout affect you. Maybe as a way to raise awareness, you might ask yourself, have you ever felt that you no longer have the energy of or excitement to serve God? Or have you ever experienced fatigue when you wake up in the morning before the liturgy? Have you ever felt emotionally exhausted? Have you ever felt worn out or experienced symptoms of stress, depression, insufficient sleep, spiritual dryness, loss of motivation, feeling of isolation, susceptibility to temptations, disengaged, withdrawal, lack of love with those whom you serve, the tendency to blame others easily, decline in self esteem, felt that accepting the service may have been a mistake? Have you ever thought of leaving ministry? Have you ever imagined that you or one member in your family would love the time to go back and you reject the ministry? Uh, Many things, and as we gonna see, many things can surface. If the answer to any of this is yes, you actually are suffering from clergy burnout. As I mentioned, for Coptic Orthodox clergy, there is nothing was done in that area before. So basically, academically, this is an important subject to fill that academic gap. When we look at our Coptic Orthodox Church, we learn that we are founded by St. Mark the Apostle, and everything we do must respect two major components. Number one, the Bible. Number two, the tradition. Uh, when we look at statistics, we're going to learn that statistical data will show that pastors are at very high risk, and that's a book. But statistically, you're gonna find that many scary data are there. Many pastors leave ministry, 80% of them and 84% of their spouse feel unqualified. And it's terrible thing to look at these scary statistics. Yet, if this is the case with pastors, we need to consider that the case will be even higher with Coptic clergy, because we have a huge commitment to our ministry, and it is a moral responsibility. We are called the fathers of the congregation, so we assume moral, spiritual, emotional obligation towards our congregation. When the Bible said that from your hand I will ask uh, their blood, which means God will demand from the clergy the life of the people that he is responsible for. That's a huge thing. All of this, and because of some cultural component, in our Coptic church, a Coptic priest will easily develop burnout. Burnout, in that case, will have what we call the vicarious secondary traumatic stress, which means not only because of the role, not only because of the uniform, not only because of the obligation, but it's also because the nature of ministry. We hear problems all the time and we feel emotionally responsible, and that has a secondary effect. The problem now is that burnout, when it comes to this level, it leaves scars in the brain, which means it has a long lasting effect that doesn't leave you. Even after you cure and heal from burnout, it is there, which means it will dictate the rest of your life somehow. All your decisions or your feeling are always gonna be different than before. So if you have burnout, what you have today, how you think today, how you behave today, how you feel today, will be always different than before. Uh, I always find myself uh, relating a lot to the verse that says, "This is I have against you that you lost your first love, or you left your first love." Although God was saying that to Timothy or the bishop of Ephesus, yet I always feel that where is my feeling, my excitement, my spiritual devotion when I was freshly ordained priest? Somehow this is lost, and somehow it is no longer the same feeling, and it is because of burnout. This is so important because clergy burnout affect the individual, affect the family of the clergy, affect the church as a whole, affect the congregation, and in fact, it affects the future of the church. Burnout can actually happen for a clergy, and if the clergy feels emotionally exhausted, and for that he becomes dissociated, so he wouldn't be excited to develop new sermons and to do excited activities, something new for the service, he will get poor evaluation. And that poor evaluation will make him feel depersonalized more. And feeling depersonalized more will cause more burnout. and burnout will creep more into his life and he will be emotionally exhausted. And so basically, this is what we call the vicious cycle of burnout. And as I mentioned, I'm trying to answer one important question in my PhD, which is how to understand the clergy burnout in the light of holistic Gestalt perspective for Coptic Orthodox clergy in North America in general and in Canada in particular. What is so unique about the Coptic Orthodox clergy that could contribute to the clergy burnout development? How can a burnout be affected by the clergy individual's views on mental health, personality, and leadership style? I'm actually trying to see how does burnout develop and manifest in different elements of human anthropology, and I am also trying to find an optimum intervention and preventive methods for Coptic Orthodox clergy. Uh, I'm working with this as well based on a request of one of the beloved bishops, Bishop Yusuf in US, in also developing an early prediction tool, a tool that can predict earlier can a burnout develop in an individual so that they can use it as an assessment tool with somebody who is nominated to be ordained. Part of the assessment is to see whether this individual is vulnerable to the burnout easily or not, and so forth. Basically, I'm trying to look at holistic approach to the idea of burnout, and I know that priesthood is an amazing rank. It's a rank of angelic nature, a heavenly ordinance, and a godly calling of love to an ultimate honor that a man can receive while still on earth. At the same time, it is the most stressful professional role that a human can perform. This is my personal opinion. Now, I want to look at developing a survey and how the survey can really help us understand the problem of burnout. So, basically, in my research survey that I'm asking every father to fill, I'm actually asking you to participate in three phases. Phase number one is to identify your leadership style and personality. And for that, I'm using the 16 personality inventory. And then I'm asking to measure your burnout level. So for that, I'm using something called the Francis Burnout Inventory, FBI. And then I'm actually asking to see what is so unique about Coptic Orthodox clergy. And it is a tool I developed called Coptic Orthodox Clergy Burnout and Ministry Satisfaction Scale. Uh, Now, every father will participate in these three steps. Step number one should take between 20 to 30 minutes. Step number two should take 15 to 20 minutes. Step number three should take between 20 to 30 minutes. First step is you're gonna go to the link of personality uh, inventory, 16 personality. So basically, the 16 personality, when you open the link, they will ask you to add your email and log in. I hope that you do that because this will be the best way to come back to the result. After you log in with your email address, you will be introduced to questionnaire where you are asked to select completely agree, completely disagree, or anything in between. While you fill these questions, you're gonna actually after that receive an email, and that email will be with your personality type, and that email will tell you what is your personality type, and this is the one I need you to fill in my survey about the personality. And there will be a link or a code to access your profile. I need this one as well. And if you go to the profile page from the email, this is how your personality looks like. And there is a link here to the profile itself. I would love you to copy that as well and fill it in my survey. So, personality type, this is a general personality inventory. You're gonna fill the questionnaire, agree, disagree, or anything in between. And based on that, this is the type of personality you have. This one here. and I need that. I need the code for accessing your personality, which is this one from the email, and I need a link to the profile, which is this one. If you've done that, this will be your first step. Thank you so much for doing that. You can also forward this email to me. Uh, Going here, forward, and you forward to the email address that I will give you for the survey. Then you come to the other part, which is part two and part three. Part two and part three, the Francis Burnout Inventory. That's part two. I want you to, I will send you the link for sure, but because I created this Google Drive to keep everything organized, confidential, anonymous, so I want you to kindly go to this Graceful Minds Christian Mental Health channel. I will send the link, and I want you to subscribe to that channel so that you will have the privilege to access this private information, and also all your information will come here in a private way. I can assure you that your data will be treated with the highest confidentiality and with the highest ethics, as well as the data itself will be handled anonymously, which means nobody will know who says what. But in order for me to do that, I want you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. After that, you go to part two, which is the link will also be sent. And part two is all about your burnout level. And by the way, the email address I ask you to send the information to is christ.mentalhealth@gmail.com. Uh, when you fill your survey, you're gonna put your email address, some information about your birth date, ordination, and so forth. These are collected mainly to actually make sure that it is a legitimate uh, data. Nobody who is not a priest is submitting this information. But after that, the data will be anonymously. After you finish this, you click next, and then starts the burnout inventory. And that burnout inventory, you're gonna also uh, rate your answers between completely disagree or completely agree or anything in between. The scale is from 1 to 5. 1 is disagree completely, 5 is agree completely. Anything in between represent the level of your agreement or disagreement. Now, after you finish this one, you will move to um, part number three, and part number three, which is the ministry satisfaction and Coptic Orthodox clergy survey. That is developed by me personally, and in fact, uh, I can assure you that this part is basically based on 12 constructs. I actually try to measure your burnout, your level of satisfaction on these 12 foundations: spiritual, behavioral, physical, occupational, role, intellectual, moral, family, emotional, organizational, social, and financial. And honestly speaking, some of the questions might be intriguing somehow, but this is because it's a PhD level survey. Um, it might be including some negative affect, some positive affects, but it is because it has to have what we call a balanced affect and representation. Since this is anonymous, nobody will see who says what, and since this is so general, so if you feel like a question is intriguing, forgive me for that, but that's how it should be to be truthful assessment. Um, when we look at how the survey would look, the survey will actually look like that. You're gonna get question, and based on that, you will answer every single question, whether it's completely agree or strongly agree or agree strongly, AS agree strongly, DS disagree strongly, and you will look at each question and answer accordingly. And for example, I don't spend time in any private devotion. If this is what you do, you will completely agree. And if you do, but not that frequent, you'll pick something in the middle. Sometimes question could have more than one option that applies to you. So you basically choose, for example, I observed I suffer from, if it is reduced to strength, flexibility, and some sleep disturbance, sure, pick both of them, and so forth. Uh, After you finish all of that, there will be a question for you to actually ask if you would like to receive what we call emotional uh, wheel or wellness wheel that really reflect how satisfied you are with yourself and how your score is satisfactory and so forth. Once again, my beloved father, thank you so much for coming here to help me with that PhD. When you apply, you fill the survey, uh, we will have a better understanding of what's going on with every clergy, with every city, with the North American region, and that can actually produce at the end some sense of recommendation on how we can do things better, or maybe your suggestion can present an idea of how to improve and so forth. At the same time, as a way to say thank you for all the fathers, anyone who participates in the survey and fills the three parts will enter a draw to win $100. I know it's not much, but it's just one way to make it excited as well as to thank the Father for participation. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for listening. When you go to that Christian mental health channel, there will be a playlist for clergy so that we can maintain this as private as possible. But the data, the survey, the answers will be anonymous and will be completely uh, confidential. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you in advance for participating. And I ask your prayers and support so that I can finish this for the glory of God and for the improvement of the clergy life. Goodbye.